This is Algebra 1, Lesson 2.6, the distributive property. We're going to use that distributive property, and we're going to simplify expressions by combining like terms beginning on page 1. Handful of definitions to start. The first thing is the distributive property. These first two, the ones at the top, these two, most people remember with no problem. Basically, it's B plus C and B minus C. Everybody does these fine. The distributive property tells you to distribute the A or multiply the A to both terms. Notice it becomes A times B plus A times C. And the same thing with this one, except it's minus in between because of the negative. The distributive property also works the other direction. It also works this way. A times B times A plus A times C. That's the one that people forget about sometimes, but it's still next to it, and it's still multiplying by it. It doesn't matter if you write A times B or B times A. Remember, your multiplication is commutative. They can move from one position to the other position. And then the same thing with this one, except it's minus in the middle. That's what the distributive property means. It means to distribute the multiplication to every term inside of the parentheses, not just one. Make sure you multiply it by every term. A coefficient is the number that is the number that's the product of a number and a variable. A coefficient of a variable, like 3x. This is the coefficient, 3. The coefficient of negative 3x is negative 3. The coefficient of x is what? 1. The number that's shown, the number that is not shown if it just shows you a variable is 1. And then the number, the coefficient of negative x is negative 1. That's what it means by coefficient. Like terms have the exact same variable raised to the exact same exponent. So 2x plus 3x are like terms. 2x minus 3x are like terms. 2x plus 3x squared are not, because they don't have the same exponent. You can combine these and get 5x. You can combine these and get negative 1x, but you cannot combine the other ones at all. Just like you can't combine 2x plus 3y or 2x plus 3. You can't combine any of those either, because they don't have the same variable raised to the same exponent. Constant terms have no variable. Numbers, normal numbers that have no variable or constant terms. More often than not, you'll see y equals 3x plus 4. This is a variable term because it has a y. This is a variable term because it has an x. This is a constant term, positive 4. No variable. When something is simplified, it no longer has grouping symbols, and all like terms have been combined. 2x plus 3x is not simplified because you have like terms. You can put those two together and get 5x. 2x plus 3 is simplified because you cannot combine those like terms. Also, if it has a set of parentheses, like 2 times x plus 3, that is not considered simplified. You need to do the distributive property in order to simplify it. Now it's simplified. No grouping symbols, no like terms. Example number 1 is using an area model. Again, just like the bell work, area equals length times width. So right here, this rectangle has a width of 5 and a length of x plus 3. So you're multiplying 5 times x plus 3. So if you were to write that, it would look like 5 times x plus 3. That's what we have down here. 5 times x plus 3. What that means is 5 times x plus 5 times 3. That's what's here. 5 times x plus 5 times 3. Or this area here plus this area here. And that's why the distributive property works, because of that. On the back, do this one. Find the area of a rectangle with width 4 and length x plus 2. Again, if you treat it just like example number one, if you separate this rectangle into x and 2, then what you're saying is 4 times x plus 4 times 2, or this area plus this area. So 4x plus 4 times 2 would be 4x plus 8 using the distributive property. Here is the distributive property, the product of A and B plus C. So this is how it's typically written. The thing that's multiplying first times B plus C. So A times B plus C is AB plus AC, or 5 times x plus 2. 5 times x is 5x, and 5 times 2 is 10. When it's written as addition, but it's after it. This is the one that people forget sometimes, not because it's hard, but it's just not how it's typically written. B plus C times A times B is BA, A times C is CA. Same thing with this one. 8 times X is 8X, and 8 times 4 is 32. Same thing's true when it's subtraction. A times B minus C. A times B minus A times C. Or 4 times X is 4X. 4 times negative 7 is negative 28. Same thing if it's written after it. If it's written after it, 9 times X is 9X. And 9 times negative 5 is negative 45. There is all the ways the distributive property will be written as both positive and negative before the grouping symbol and after the grouping symbol. Example number 2 is using the distributive property. 8 times x plus 9 means 8 times x and 8 times 9. 8 times x is 8x. 8 times 9 is 72. That's the easiest way it'll be written. Negative 5 times x minus 5. Notice off to the side it says in example 2 and B and C. Remember that a factor with a negative must multiply each term of an expression. And this is the most common mistake. People will multiply negative 5 times x, and then they'll multiply this 5 times negative 6, and they'll lose that negative at the beginning. So negative 5 times x is going to be negative 5x, and negative 5 times negative 6, a negative times a negative is going to be a positive 30. So we have negative 5x plus 30. And this negative x, this acts just like negative 1x if you forget. So negative x times y is negative xy, and negative x times negative 2x, and negative times a negative is going to be a positive 2. And since we're multiplying x times x, it'll be positive 2x squared. So negative xy plus 2x squared. On the back, 3 times x plus 1. Do it quick. It'll take 15 seconds. When we distribute it, 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 1 is positive 3. That's all we can do with that. We can't put those two together and get 6x because they are not like terms. Below that or next to that, do this one. Notice it's written backwards. Notice it has subtraction in it. You're doing the same thing, though. Okay, we got x minus 2 times 7. 7 times x is 7x. 7 times negative 2, negative 14. Again, can't put those two together. Not like terms. Here's another one. 2 plus 5x times x. Again, it's written backwards. Remember what you got to do when you multiply x times x. X times 2 is 2x. X times 5x is positive 5. You have two x's, so it's x squared. 2x plus 5x squared. And then one more. D times 2 minus d. D times 2, 2d. D times negative d, negative d squared, since it's d times d. 2d minus d squared. Again, you can't put those two together, even though they both have d, and even though both of these had x, one of them is to the first power, one to the second power. Like terms have the same variable to the same exponent. Beautiful. Okay, mental math calculations. This is where you can do this. And sometimes you'll hear me ask questions like this just the way you don't have to use your handy dandy calculators to make this stuff easier. It says a cereal box costs $2.51. Use the distributive property and mental math to calculate the cost of 3 boxes of cereal. In your brain, think of it instead of as $2.51, just think of it as 250. 250 times 3, we know that 250 twice is $5. If you add another 250 to it, it's going to be 750. So 250 plus 1 cent mentally is going to be 750, and this is what you look like with the distributive property. 3 times 250 plus 1 cent. This times this, which I just said a second ago was 750, and this times this, which is going to be 3 cents. So 750 plus 3 cents at the end, we know is $7.53. So 3 boxes of cereal at 251. Mentally, you can quickly find out. Do 3 times 250, 750. 3 times 1 penny is 3 cents. 750 plus 3 cents is 753. And then on the back again, you don't have to write all of this down. Just do it for me. You want to buy 4 new tires at $44.98 each. Use the distributive property where you can mentally calculate it quickly. Okay, this number is a little bit harder to do than $2.50, but the same concept. You need to ask yourself what number is that close to that you can mentally use. $45 is the easier number. It's even easier than 44 is because you'd have to do 98 cents. So what that is, 44.98 is 45 minus 2 pennies, minus 2 cents. So 4 times 45 minus 2 cents. So if you distribute that, 4 times 45, well, you know 2 times 45 is 90, and 90 and 90 is $180. And then 4 times a negative 2 cents is going to be negative 8 cents. So 180 minus 8 cents is going to be $179.92. That's 4 tires at $44.98 each. That's what it means by calculated mentally. Round it to an easy number and then either add or subtract from it. Here's example number 4. We're trying to go quick, everybody. I know I'm racing y'all through it. Combining like terms, 10x plus 13x. Use the distributive property, 10 plus 13 times x. Combine those terms, 10 and 13 is 23x. Or simply say they have the same variable to the same exponent. 10 plus 3 is 23. This one says 2xy minus 5 plus 8xy plus 3. Rewrite it as an addition expression. Since it says minus 5, this one's just saying plus a negative 5. Then group your like terms. 2xy, remember commutative property says you can put them in whatever order you want. 2xy plus 8xy and negative 5 plus 3 are like terms because they are constant terms. 2xy plus 8xy is 10xy. Negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. And we will finish the rest of this tomorrow.